You're listening to the Shawn P Greene Show.
All right. Yeah, it's your boy Shawn P Greene. What's up? Shawn P Greene, the Shawn P Greene Show. It's April 14th, 2026, and I'm back on all these platforms today. I'm on Rumble. I'm on YouTube. I think I'm on X. Let's just double check. Okay, I'm on, it's connecting to Twitch right now. Nope, I'm not on X Live. I don't know what I got to do to change all that, but all right, so Twitch is not connecting. So anyways, I'm on YouTube and Rumble. I'm on here live. And I want to talk about this whole situation. Today I'm going to talk about a couple things. Just recap a little bit about what I did this weekend. Just staying busy, staying in fellowship with people. Just making sure that, whatever the case is as far as our fellowship opportunities, that if you have an opportunity to hang around with somebody, to take advantage of it. You know what I mean? And depends on the setting, of course. Now, of course, I'm talking about, for me personally, hanging out with godly people. There's times where you're going to be in a situation where you might be with family, and not everybody in that vicinity is godly, so to speak. But you love your family. You love people. You love everybody that is in your sphere of influence. So with that said, let me find out why my Twitch is not connecting, so I can connect with my Twitch friends. Anyways, the Shawn P Greene Show. This is a cool week this week for me and my daughter. My daughter turns 24 this Thursday. Yes, Mariah turns 24. And I turn this Saturday. Not that it's a big problem for me to say what my age is. I don't really care. I think it's more or less, troublesome to talk about it as a man. Us males, we don't have problems really revealing our age. If anything, the older we get, the more distinguished people perceive us to be. So I'm gonna find out why this Twitch isn't coming on. You can find my broadcast last week and the week before. I got a 21 days. Got a couple of them. I think these shows only last a week on Twitch. So let me just go to my creator dashboard here. So birthday is coming up this week. 24 is a big number, but it's still not 25. My daughter can't drive, so she's not gonna get a discount on car insurance, which normally happens at that age. So, but this previous week, a lot of fellowship opportunities, a lot of things that, hang on a second. A lot of things that we could do to keep ourselves busy, but not so busy that we miss God in the middle of it, right? We have to balance things out. We can't always be busy, 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 and not have enough time or energy for people that they like us, they love us, they care about us, and they depend on our friendship and our fellowship. So, I don't know why Twitch is not connecting this week. I'll try it one more time. If it doesn't connect, it doesn't connect. But YouTube and Rumble, and of course you can watch this on Facebook after, but it's actually streaming on Facebook, but it's only visible by me until I publish it. So that's the weird part. But it's on YouTube Live, and it's on Twitch Live. Now it's connected. Rumble Live. So you can go to any of those platforms right now, and if you want to chat, I will be chatting it up. So, what's good? I'm going to do that in my little greeting I do every time I do a stream through these platforms. All right, so I am on Twitch. Very good. Okay, let me just get to really the bottom line. Why I wanted to talk tonight. A lot of good topics, a lot of good things I can talk about, but this thing is bothering everybody, and I don't have all the research. Let me just say this: I'm not sitting home all day on my phone or online, or sometimes I'm scrolling, but every now and then I see topics of discussion that people bring up, and sometimes I don't have context or even time to research this context. And this weekend was so busy, I really missed this big deal with the Trump meme. Let me see if I can get some answers on this. Why this Trump meme is making everybody so upset. So, pardon my ignorance. Okay. Let's see. All right. This is okay. So this is something that was, as far as I understand, originally was posted on Truth Social, which is Trump's AI image. It's got him in a red robe, okay, or in a white robe with a red sash over it, depicting what seems to be Jesus. However, some people are saying, oh, it's the Pope, but I don't know about that. So it seems to be a troll. What's going on here? Let's see. Let's just see what it's an Orthodox Easter Sunday. Is that what it was meant to be? All right. Well, let's go as far left as we can, understanding what this is all about first. Let's go to the Washington Post. Let me see what they say, because they're gonna, in essence, talk about it, spin it the way they want to say it. Oh, I can't go to the Washington Post. You have to have access to it. No thanks. I ain't paying for that. No thank you. All right, let's just go to any topic here. Let's see. Let's find out what it is. Okay, the top one is Guardian. The Guardian, Jon Stewart on Trump's. All right, let's see what Jon Stewart says. How about that? We'll go to the Guardian. I believe it's a left-leaning newspaper or publication online. Jon Stewart on Trump's Jesus photo denial. Do you even care about lying to us anymore? This is Jon Stewart's commentary. Late night host discusses Trump posting an AI generated image of himself as Christ amid his feud with Pope Leo. Okay, so I do got a little idea. It's really this little banter between Pope Leo and President Trump. And there's a lot of, there's been a rivalry between them two ever since the Pope has been installed and he takes over. Well, let's see what it says. Let's go to...
Welcome to Mad Props. I am your host, Chris Schnabel, and today we're going to be doing something a little different but the same. Today we are going to be doing an...
Nope.
Welcome to the Daily Show on this beautiful spring day. My name is Jon Stewart. We have a great show for you tonight, a great show. Later on, I'll be talking to peace activists Aziz Abu Sarah and Meoz Inan. They are a Palestinian and an Israeli who traveled their homeland and I assume walked into a bar with the Pope. Honestly, it's an incredible book.
All right, so just
about two men
for the
touched by
record,
tragedy.
you know, I do think he's funny, and there's comical moments, and even when when Colbert was doing a parody character on the Daily or on the, I think this is the Comedy Central network, I did find some funny parts of it. You know, I think Bill O'Reilly was the parodied character when Stephen Colbert was on the Comedy Central doing his show, the Colbert Report. I think that's what it was called, or Colbert Report. I'm thinking of my uncle. So, anyways, John. Stewart, okay, I thought he was also funny during this era, and this was during the Bush administration. To me, there was a lot of comical moments during that time, at least for those 8 years, and then before and after even their administrations, there's comical moments, but you know, we had 8 years of Obama. The left did not want to be too critical of his position, but they definitely wanted to hit anybody that's Republican, conservative, or whatever. Hey, free speech, right? You know, we're in America. This is how we live. This is how we operate. So let me just get the crux of what he's trying to talk about here.
Who try to rise above this conflict to find reconciliation and healing. It's a message of compassion shared by many in the world today, including Chicago-born, Villanova-educated Pope Leo the 14th.
Chi ha il potere di scatenare guerre.
Let those who have the power to unleash wars choose peace, not a peace imposed by force.
So Pope Leo is very much opposed to war, which, you know, you would think Donald Trump would be also, the way he was critical of all the other administrations going to war, and yet we're in a war. So this is legitimately a gripe from the Democratic side, and many or most of your Democrats, or should I say most of your Catholics, are left or Democratic leaning in philosophy, theology, and so forth. So it's, you know, I thought that, me personally, I thought that was odd, trying to go for, you know, a life in Christ. You would think Christ is not a liberal, you know, and he's a lot more conservative, I would have thought. So if the person who's the vicar of Christ, so to speak, is trying to represent Christ, would be more conservative, and in some aspects they are, but in other aspects they're very liberal. So the popes, you know, they've had kind of a shift over the centuries, I think, with what they believe. you know. But I don't believe a pope or a father of a church or a bishop of a city or whatever title is adequate for different types of beliefs. Don't think they should be advocates for war either. So I do agree with that. I don't prefer war. I'm a war veteran, you know, and I don't advocate for war as a solution. So there are times where you have to defend. That's an important part. But anyway.
Force, but through dialogue.
Look who became Pope and suddenly became too good for English. Ooh. But still, a beautiful, compassionate message that I cannot imagine anyone, really,
find the
anyone.
Okay, here you go. Here's a little bit more. We'll jump ahead a little.
In a separate social media message, the president shared an image of himself in a religious scene that appears to depict Trump as Jesus.
Oh my God!
All right, I'm not going to try to get too much more into that, but you get the idea. This is the backlash. He's all over the place. He's all over the place on this one, and I tend to question it myself. Like, what is he thinking? What was he? Why would you do that? You know. And according to this, the Guardian, the host, noted that while Trump's comments upset many Christians. Okay, I'm really starting to sour on this president. This is Jon Stewart. Okay. The host, he's just talking about it. The host noted that while Trump's comments upset many Christians, please don't worry. And as it gets worse, he then shared an image of Trump posted depicted him as Jesus Christ himself, healing a sick man while flanked by disciples. That man, Stewart added, happened to look a bit like himself. So anyways, this is the problem. Was this the intent? I don't know. I don't know what the intent was. You guys can fill me in all you want. Give me some insight. Because I don't know. I'm not really versed on this. It'll probably take me a week to process. I'll probably be listening to both right, left, and middle conversations about this and just kind of gather all the information I can about the understanding of what just happened. Because to me, it is very blasphemous for anybody that's a Christian to boast themselves equal to Christ. As we talked about last week, Paula White was also doing her part in kind of pumping Trump up as a Christ figure. And that's, to me, that's odd. He's not the Christ. He's not the anointed one in a sense, spiritually. I'm just going to not leave it at that. I'm not going to go any further than that because even in a Christian circle, there are people that are just, Trump's the anointed one, and I do trust the process. I try to see what's going on, and sometimes it's painful when some of our leaders make these decisions to either go to war. The Clintons, they did their damage, pretty much got their hands in the middle of Yugoslavia. Hillary Clinton got herself into the Libya issue, George Bush, of course, Iraq and Afghanistan. So there's a lot of things that's been going on for decades, centuries. We can go on for history and talk about these things. So it's not all anybody. There's nobody innocent that's leading our country. When Biden was president, we had just as many people complain about him, for a lot of things. How many times you go to the gas pump and you saw the sticker of him saying, "I did that"? People are going to criticize. No matter which side of the political spectrum you are, you're going to be critical of somebody doing something. But I have to say this post was definitely off color. And I'm not saying he can't be anointed by Christ to heal the sick, because it's very funny because, I was just talking about this topic a couple weeks ago, on this program. And then I also shared Sunday at a church in Cheektowaga, Redeemed Church, the same message. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. This is Jesus talking about himself, a prophecy that was given in Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. So if the Spirit of the Lord is upon Trump, he can heal the sick. He can mend the brokenhearted. He can set the captives free. Doesn't matter who you are. I don't care, good, bad, or ugly in your life. If God has his Spirit on you, you can do these things. And you have to have faith that you can do it. Okay? So I don't disagree that that's something that, if it was just implied, that he can or cannot do. By himself, no. He's not a healer. So Trump is not a healer by himself. I'm not a healer by myself. Billy Graham or whoever, faith preachers, nobody can heal by themselves. Now, there's a lot of wisdom given to many people that are studying science and biology, and they learn how to help people get healed. Sometimes they use medicine, and it helps people to recover from sicknesses, diseases, and so on. But they also could be anointed to do the miracle of healing, like a miraculous healing, not just a recovery. So Trump is a human being just like all of us are. He just happens to be the leader of the free world right now. And some people might not think we're free at this point, but we are. We're a lot freer than most people around this planet. And you can't disregard that fact. We are a free country. So with that, you make an AI image of yourself. I made an AI image of myself too. Not with the healing hands, but I made it as a joke. And I shared it with a pastor friend of mine, and I says, "Hey, if you want me to come to your church, I'll come speak on prosperity." And I had myself looked up, like swagged out. So, not saying that you can't be wealthy, because wealth, poverty, all that stuff, that's the material world. Most of the riches that you're considering first would be the internal, your soul prosperity, as the scriptures say. But we can do great works according to how God anoints us. So I do agree that it's possible, but to put yourself out there on your own social media network that you created as sort of a Messiah on your own merit can be problematic. And many people are calling it, in the church, people are calling it blasphemous. And it might be. I'd say it can teeter on that. I don't know the total intent. Again, I'm going to need a week to process all this, but there are some people that's all they're doing. Day in and day out, they're just critical of everything that he does. And maybe that's God's gift to them to be the watchdog of how to put down everybody that what they're doing wrong, or especially, the president right now. But that's not my anointing. My anointing is not to put everybody down and tell everybody how bad everybody is, especially the president. So I didn't do that with Biden all day. I didn't bash him all day. I don't agree with some of the things towards the end of his life or end of his political reign as president to be in that position anymore. That's all. I didn't agree with it. And Trump might be in that position himself. He might be teetering on dementia. We'll pray for him that he gets healed, but he might be on that spectrum right now. We don't know. We don't know where he stands. So we pray for him. We pray for anybody that's in charge of this country. Whether they're righteous or evil or whatever, we're still going to pray for them. I don't care what you believe about that. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to pray for our leadership. But we can be critical to a point. You got to pray for them, though. If you're not willing to pray for somebody that's in your governments, then just stop being critical of them. Chances are you got some problems yourself that you're hiding behind someone else's critical issues that you got to deal with first. You really got to deal with your own problems first. You can't be pointing a finger at everybody else all the time. If that's your mission, then you really don't have a mission. You're not commissioned to be the critic of everybody. Now, it could be indicative of a gift you have that God has given you. But if you're not discipled properly or trained properly to understand what this gifting is, and if it's unbridled and it's out of control, you're just going to be a jerk to everybody all the time. All the while, you yourself don't have half your life together. And you got to be considerate of that. Anyways, so there's my soapbox for tonight. Didn't want to get into it too much, but, just, you sometimes you got to worry about yourself, man, before you start pointing the finger at everybody else. If you got it all together, cast the first stone. But if you ain't got it all together, as my brothers and sisters in the Spanish world say, cállate. Zip it. Stop making all these tweets and posts on social media and bashing and sending videos of conspiracies and criticism to all your friends in Messenger just so that you can bend everybody towards your thinking. We can have a conversation, but if you're not trying to do your own self-evaluations, then just shut it, Keep your fingers to yourself. Stop doing this all day long, Bunch of nerds, that's all they do is just do this all day. And they got nothing else to do. Well, look what happened now. They're just angry all the time. And they never have peace. They never have joy. They're always critical and angry. Man, I know so many people that are like that. I can understand having a passionate disdain for somebody. Okay, I can understand that. There's times that I didn't like somebody either passionately, and I had a way about doing something about it. You know what I mean? Like confronting certain things if you had to. You know, but if you're living your whole life just being critical and you don't have self-improvement on the priority list of your life, you know, why don't you, here's a challenge. How about bash yourself? Find all the flaws in your life and start posting that to all your friends. I challenge you to do that. See if you can do that. Why don't you be critical of yourself? And I'm not talking about falling into depression because you feel so down on yourself. But I'm saying if you're going to have the same kind of energy against somebody else, bring that same energy to help yourself in that same way. What are your top 5 flaws? Post that to all your friends and family and put it on your social media. Email it out. Email blast it. Oh, yeah, I drink too much. I swear too much. I steal all the time. Blah, blah, blah. You got, speaking of stealing, another topic. Tomorrow is the tax deadline. Some people cheat on your taxes. So I'll bring that up in a second. I got a lot of friends that have done tax preparation, that they actually do that seasonally in different places around this country. I personally, I think it was 2007, I think 2007. I was back on taxes, just back on doing my taxes. And the good thing is I didn't owe any money. So, but I did not do my taxes for like almost 10 years. So I missed out on some returns. But from 2000, and it's for year 2000 to the year 2010, I think it was, I did all 10 years in one year. And you can only get your last 3 years tax money back to you. So I didn't get, my checks were minimal. My tax money was, I didn't own a house. I wasn't claiming other people. I didn't have, I was, claiming single throughout this whole process. So I did all my taxes, 10 years straight worth, all in 1 year. I learned how to do it. I figured it out. And I did write them all up, send it all out, did them all by hand. And so I started working for a tax company after that. And, so I learned how to do my own taxes. But a lot of people, they don't have that skill set. They're not either good at math, or they don't have clerical or administrative gifts. They're not organized with paperwork. One person was saying, sometimes I just take my whole years of receipts in a little envelope and I just hand it to the accountant and to do my taxes for me. But some people like myself are, a little bit more meticulous. We like to get the spreadsheet, prepare it, have it printed out for them, so if there's any questions, it's already there. So that, there's ways that people do these things to prepare for tax season. But April 15th is the tax season, and you don't want to. You can file an extension. If you owe money, or if you don't owe money, you can file an extension, which will give you 6 more months. So October, you would have to do it. But if you owe money, you still have to pay that money. But you don't have to file for your taxes until October. So the deadline to pay your taxes is also tomorrow if you owe money. If you don't owe money, then your tax return will be delayed. That's all. So, and I think you had to have a tax return for certain stimulus. There's all kinds of stuff that happened, over the years, in order to get that money. So, don't be complacent. Try to keep yourself together. If you don't have an accountant or you can't afford an accountant, then find somebody who's good in math that's close to you in the family, and just sit down with them and see what you can do. But it really is easy nowadays, because you can go to TurboTax or whatever the other online programs you can use, and you pay a little bit, depending on what you're filing. If you got like a business, you got to pay a lot, but it helps. It's kind of like a shelter, or helps you if you got issues with your taxes. A bigger company like that will help you. So I don't know who to recommend out there. I do know that there's the biggest one, I think, was Jackson Hewitt is one of them. H&R Block was probably the biggest one. But there's a lot of independent tax services everywhere. Some of them are accountants full-time, CPAs. If you go to a church or you have a fellowship of people, you just ask around, hey, anybody that does taxes? And you can probably get a decent price. I wouldn't recommend just any old person that you've never dealt with before. So, are your taxes done? So I'm just asking that question in our chats. If you want to respond, feel free. They show up. Let me try it again. Are your taxes done? Let's try it again. All right, I posted it twice, so sometimes there's a delay in doing all this messages, little messages I send out. Okay. What else am I going to talk about today? Oh, yeah, I did share I went to a lot of things Saturday, a lot of events. Woke up in the morning, I was teaching my brothers in India. We were going through Isaiah 6, and it was a beautiful scripture. It's just weird. Some people might not understand this, but it's weird how some things seem to be coincidental that set up the rest of your day or week or whatever. But I don't believe in coincidences. There's a lot of things that just confirmation that God is in the middle of your, whatever plans you're doing. For instance, last Wednesday morning, I was reading Numbers 13 for our Bible study. And lo and behold, this Sunday at my church, I wasn't there because I was speaking at another church. My church, young man Kobe, was reading from that chapter. And I never talked to him. He's not in my Bible study. So it's like, God's trying to say things and repeating things to get the point across. So, it was about the giants, and the perception of how we think these giants, this is Israel speaking. These spies that went out looking for the sons of Anak and trying to see how the land looks before they go to this promised land. And they had these sons of Anak that are giants, descendants of the Nephilim, that to them were huge, and they said, we look like grasshoppers in their sight. But it was them just being afraid of them. They weren't they weren't really grasshoppers, but they perceived themselves as grasshoppers to them. And they also assumed what they were thinking about themselves. So sometimes we have this thing that we overthink things about ourselves, and we kind of downplay ourselves. So that was reinstituted twice, that last week, that message. The grasshopper, the inferiority complex, if you will. We have that. So that was a repeated message for that weekend. And then, as I was teaching the pastors in India early Saturday morning, that message, like I knew God was having me use that message later on in the day. I did a hospital visit, and I went with a good friend, Tommy, and we went to visit somebody at a hospital, and I used that scripture also. And it was really just about, the seraphim. They were singing holy, holy, holy in the presence of God, and the glory of God was filling that temple. The temple is up in heaven, but that's an analogy for us. We now are the temple of the Holy Ghost. When we say holy, 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 we're actually filling our temple with His glory. So, a lot of people might not understand this. This is theological, spiritual, biblical context, and some people might not get to this point. But for those of you that get it, you get it. You understand. The point is that there's always recurring messages, and God sets you up for future encounters. If you just stay in His Word and you listen for His voice, you allow His Spirit to lead you, it's just amazing. Last Saturday was amazing. It was a full day. It was like 18 hours straight of just unexpected encounters. What God was allowing me to do. There was this group of guys. There was a men's ministry. It's called Sundulos. They had a meeting, breakfast, not a breakfast, but, a morning session. Just encouraging men to be good men, strong men for their families, for their communities, for their churches, that kind of stuff. And, it was just a beautiful time of fellowship, men from different areas, of Western New York. What else? Oh, I did worship practice after that. And then I went to the hospital visit. And I don't know, I can't. It's hard to grasp when God wants you to just do things. You just do it. Sunday was another full day. Like I said, I preached at a church other than my own, and went home to rest for a little bit. Went to another church function at another church somewhere else, listening to an evangelist that's come through several times, Woody Woodson. And, there's just a lot of encouragement that I got, too. Not only was I given the opportunity to feed and pour out and teach all last week up until today, but I'm also receiving, hearing, getting my faith built up. And that's really how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be having our cup run over to pour out to others, but always getting replenished. If you don't do that, this is what happens. Here's my experience. When you don't do anything for God, when you just kind of stay stagnant and you just do stuff for yourself, you become a spiritual cesspool. If you know what that is, it's like there's a river, and then at the river bank, sometimes there's a little part of the river bank that might turn into a little whirlpool, and then it becomes a stagnant spot, and then no water flows in and out of it anymore. If any, it's very little amount of water, and it's this little part that just has less life in it. It's not flowing. It's not replenishing. It's just whatever dies there is dead and it stays there, the cesspool. And your spiritual body can get that way. Your spiritual self can be that way. If you don't pour out, if you're not giving out, if you're not doing what the Lord asks you to do with your giftings, it can be problematic for you because you won't grow spiritually and you won't feel useful. Instead of throwing out all this hate emails and messaging and posts and all that stuff, you can be encouraging people. You can be ministering to people. You know, people are suffering and hurting and you know, you're stewing in your own anger. And that's selfishness is what it is. And yet there's people out there that could use prayer. They can use an encouraging word, and you don't got nothing for them. You have nothing. All you have is whining, complaining, murmuring, you know, just constantly just negative. Wham, wham, wham. Life is hard. I hate this person. You got nothing for nobody. You got to change that, you know. I've had to change that. And that's a process. It's a long thing. One of the part of the messages on Sunday I gave was that we have to trust the process. None of us have arrived. Every one of us could be criticized. Every one of us could be on the gauntlet or the firing squad of people criticizing us for all the junk that we do or think or say or whatever. Every one of us. Nobody is beyond scrutiny. Everybody has something that they can be picked apart. You know, having a discussion about it, you know, that's not a problem. But what's problematic is that your whole life is just complaining. This is a problem even we're learning more and more about, you know, going back to the Torah, children of Israel, the wilderness children. They were just murmurers. They were murmuring. They were complainers, whiners, always mad, upset. You know, they want to go back to Egypt. It was better. That was their perception of their situations. And nothing could have been farther from the truth. They were enslaved. They were choosing. They wanted to have, you know, all their meals in slavery rather than the freedom to begin their own destiny. Okay, whatever. So, people complain too much. That's all I know. I think it's possible that people can mature eventually and grow out of things. But if you're close to 50 years old still acting this way, I mean, come on now. It's time for us to grow up, right? I mean, I'm not there. I haven't arrived. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that can be critical of me. And I'm fine with that. I'm not beyond scrutiny. I own up to anything that is something I make a mistake on. Anything I do wrong, yeah, I'll own up to it. But I'm not gonna allow somebody to try to crush my spirit. To me, that's kind of witchcraft-ish. You know, you're trying to impose your will on me. That ain't gonna happen. But being critical of me, that's fine. I'm okay with that. And if it's a legitimate thing that I have to improve on, I'm all for it. I'll do it. So, no complaint from me. So, if anybody's out there listening and watching, you know, we do have YouTube and Twitch and Rumble. You can always make comments on. And I usually post a link of this on X from the YouTube. I posted on my website, ShawnPGreene.com. And what else? What else do I got to bring up? So Sundoulos, yeah, that was the men meeting that I went to Saturday. SUNDOULOS. And then I don't know. I probably should not have done this, but on my Facebook page, I'm gonna go to my Facebook, and as a parody to this Trump thing, I posted the parody that somebody else made of Lindy Ruff. That's who this guy is, by the way, on this meme. If you went to my Facebook page and you saw that, this is what this is about. This is Lindy Ruff. He's the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres have won the Atlantic Division for the first time in, I don't know how long, 15 years, 20 years, 14 years maybe. So I got somebody chatting with me real quick. But this is Lindy Ruff, if anybody was wondering. And Buffalo Sabres, I mean, if you were following hockey, you would be like, whoa, who is this team? Because we were amongst the worst for the last several years. And since December, this team made a solid run to being number one. We were the worst, and now we're the first. So this is a great story of that. But as a parody, as a joke, somebody made this image with Lindy Ruff, the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres, as what they did for the Trump, meme. So, don't get offended. Some people are probably offended by it. So I don't know who this person is that's actually laying down on this bed. Somebody give me a comment or talk to me about what is this? What's up? I got somebody chat with me. So yeah, there's comedy involved in this now. Is Lindy Ruff anointed? Well, technically he's anointed to be the coach of the Buffalo Sabres. So that's kind of his anointing. He's got a gift to lead a team. This is basically pretty much the same team from last year and the year before. And Lindy Ruff had almost all the same players from when I think they let him go a couple years ago, and then they brought him back. But Lindy Ruff is a former Buffalo Sabre himself, player. So, it's just comedy, man. It's just a joke. We're not trying to be blasphemous about it. It's just throw this back in Trump's face for doing this. A Buffalo Sabre fan probably picked this meme to kind of put it back to him. So that's what's up with hockey. Buffalo's hockey. We're about to enter into it. I think tomorrow might be their last regular season game. And then guess what? Playoffs. And I think we're the number 2 seed. So we're going to have the home field, home ice. So I think it's important that this city braces for the response if, in fact, we win the Stanley Cup this year. And I'm hoping we do. I really do. But if that does happen, this city's going to go bananas. And we just got to brace for it. how many other cities that we've seen in sports, in the sports world, that their cities, they, rioted, burnt down stuff and everything after winning a championship. I hope we win a championship, but we do it peacefully. I hope we do everything that makes the city proud, I hope this team wins. So, but it's going to be fun to watch. I don't have tickets. I think like $3,000 for a seat now. Last year when we were the worst, you can get a ticket for $30. And they might even throw a hot dog in there just to get you in the door. So I'm gonna post the Lindy Ruff. I got somebody asking me on my Facebook page, who's in this image? All right. What else? What else we got going on? It was good to connect with my friend Todd Post. He's a traveling evangelist. Let me see if I can find his image. So here's my Facebook page. Here's an image of me, Rosemary, and Todd at International House of Pancakes. And we just happened to run into him. Rosemary and I, we went to do some errands, and we were at Walmart, and lo and behold, this guy walks in. So we got to spend some time with him, had a little conversation, kind of catch up to what's going on in his life, and how God uses him and stuff like that. And it was a blessing. It was awesome. And then right after that, we went to where he's staying, our pastor friend, Mark Robshaw. So we got to talk with him for about a half hour. And we went on our way. We went and saw a movie. So, but Todd is a good evangelist. He worked with the Billy Graham Crusade at one point. I believe he's about 20 years he's been on the road, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of people probably in his sphere of influence over in the past question him doing something like this. But by faith, he's been walking around this country and in Canada even, sharing the gospel. He's a street evangelist. Like, he'll go up to anybody, and witness to them, bring people to the knowledge of Christ. And truly, he has a evangelist heart. So, and periodically, we also have to throw him some money. We don't have to. This is our heart. This is what we like to do. We like to give. And when the Lord prompts me to do so, I give to him as well. So remember, you can always go to my website, ShawnPGreene.com, and you can go to the money links towards the bottom of the page. Go to PayPal if you want to send me PayPal or Cash App, and you can donate. There's also a donate page right from the front there under About. So here's the Facebook, and let me get my picture out of here for a second. I got the, not the Facebook, my Cash App and my PayPal scannable codes if you want to do such a thing. I got my buddies trying to call me. Yep. I have to get back to you, buddy, on that one. So yes, you can help us help Todd, plus my Pakistani friends, plus my Bangladeshi friends, plus my India friends, and anybody else that the Lord puts on our heart to support. You can always support those ministries through us so that you don't have to, you don't have to have the whole list. We got a whole bunch of people that when the Lord prompts us, we give. If you want to help in that ministries, all these different ministries, I'm encouraging you to do so. So, feel free. Just letting my brother know, he's trying to call me, that I'm on my podcast right now on YouTube. So, so Todd, he's in town, so he comes around Buffalo. I spent some time with Todd a couple years back down in Tampa Bay when we were visiting family down there, and he happened to be down there. I picked him up. Me and my daughter and him went to an Asian buffet in Apollo Beach, just south of Tampa. And I think that was the last time I actually saw him. I might have seen him up here staying with Pastor Mark, but that's it. So Todd Post is the real deal. He's always witnessing. He's always sharing the gospel to everybody, praying, whatever it is. So we all have our giftings. I think mine is, one of them is the teaching gift. The Lord has given me a gift to teach, especially His Word. So, anyways, what else? Last thing I wanted to bring up. I don't know if I have it in here or not. There's this movie that I went and saw that I highly recommend. It's called A Great Awakening. And what a beautiful depiction of this story of what happened. If you're into denominations, okay, if you understand that, after the 1500s, when Martin Luther, the German monk, posted his 95 Theses, because of the corruption in the Catholic Church. He posted it. He still was practicing in a Catholicism way, but he was altering based on what the written word was also available. He wrote it with the Gutenberg press in German. So since then, more and more what they call Protestants have come, different movements. So this gentleman, George Whitefield, I'm sorry. He was in England in the 1700s. This is before America became America as an independent nation. And George Whitefield was preaching in England. He was getting kicked out of Anglican churches all over the country to the point where they no longer wanted him to be in the country. So he took his gospel message, a very, very, fiery message. And he was an actor too, not just the actor that played him, but George Whitefield was an actor, a trained stage performer, and he threw that away to preach the gospel. I wouldn't say throw it away. I said he more like he chose to do that instead. So that's this story. And then Ben Franklin, which I didn't realize how important their relationship was until watching this movie. Benjamin Franklin was a very instrumental, architect of sciences, philosophy, theology, even some of it, and of course the Declaration of Independence and founding fathers, and now he's on the $100 bill. It's all about the Benjamins now, right? So he was instrumental in that relationship with the preacher by printing his sermons in the Americas, or in the colonies, I would say, before it became America. Again, 1776, that's when America was independent, but George Whitefield was during the 1930s and 40s and 50s, I think even into the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, preaching the gospel in the 13 colonies and anywhere else I'm assuming he can go. So he sparked this great revival. Him, Jonathan Edwards was another one, 2 other people listed. You can look it up. Plenty of YouTube videos about the first Great Awakening. But this Great Awakening for the colonies is what birthed America, the United States. So, man, it's just amazing. It was an amazing story, and I didn't know some of the things. And of course, you're not going to get everything in just a 2-hour film, but it was such a beautiful film, beautifully made, produced by Sight and Sound Productions, Sight and Sound Films. By the way, Sight and Sound is a great stage production company down in Pennsylvania that they put off plays based on a certain character or whatever, like David or Jonah, Noah, stuff like that. So these people have been doing performing arts for quite a while, and they really did a great job. And this actor that played George Whitefield was phenomenal. It gave a glimpse of the Methodist movement, the 2 brothers, Charles and John Wesley, which kind of started that Wesleyan denominations. So you want to know more about the history of church history. That's going to take a long time to study, not just the Bible itself, the foundations of all Judeo-Christian history, but also beyond, the fall of Rome, 70 AD. There's a lot more that happened after all that sometimes is not discussed based on denominational beliefs. They've only pick and choose apart 1 or 2, pieces of it, and they won't tell you the rest of it. Me, I like to be well versed in everything. It's church history is fascinating. To me, what's fascinating too is the petty quarrels that sometimes we'll get into because of doctrine or theology or semantics or philosophy, or the idea of who we are, So it's really, to me, it's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy history. I enjoy cultures, all that stuff. So to me, this film it's like a highly recommended film, and it was only meant to be released for a short time, and I think you're going to be able to watch it online eventually, soon. But go see it in the movies. It's much more impactful, I think. I'll go to this website. You can see the trailer a little bit, but just great Sight Sound, which is the name of their company. So George Whitefield, he was very instrumental in the foundation of America. It says in honor of America's 250th anniversary. So, of course, this is 2026, 250 years of the United States anniversary. A lot of things come up. You know, even here's another thing. The Council of Nicaea. That's 1,700 years old. If you don't know what that is, that's another church history lesson you can go back to learn. Maybe someday I'll bring up some of that stuff. But again, there's already a million videos of stuff to learn on YouTube already. But maybe just for my own project or whatever, a documentary type thing, I'll put together some teachings like that. In the meantime, I'm doing this podcast and, doing it the best of my abilities. I could do much better lighting, better sound, better everything. But this is what I have. This is what I'm doing. So let's see if when these tickets stay on sale for a while or what. It looks like it's extended through April 26th. Let's Buffalo Times. Okay. It looks like April 23rd, which is a Thursday. That'll be next week, probably. That will be the last time that you can actually see it in the theaters. Some of them, anyways. Regals. Transit, probably be the last one in the Western New York area. Next Wednesday is another option. So, I don't think they have any 3Ds, but they got some all 2Ds. So, but I went to the 12:30 showing of it this afternoon, today, and I love it. 10 out of 10, I give it. The actor that played George Whitfield. Let me see if I can get to the credits. Okay, a lot of sponsors promoting it. The Action Bible. It's a cool, colorful Bible. American Bible Society. They provide free Bibles to a lot of ministries, a lot of organizations. National Day of Prayer is coming up, and a couple other things. Well, anyways, let me see if I can find the cast. Home, Showtime. Nope. Doesn't show it. Anyways, I probably have to go to IMDb for that. So that's all I got really today. I wanted to touch on the Trump thing because I do believe it is a little problematic. And even Christians will be critical of other Christians discussing anything about Trump. You got some people that will die in the hill for Trump, and they will rebuke you for saying anything bad about him. You got Never Trumpers, and you got MAGA, and you got all these other cult-like behaviors in politics. Not just last week we were talking about in churches, but even in politics, we got cult-like behavior. All right, so who's this actor that played George Whitfield? Okay, there it is. Jonathan Blair. I don't think he does look a little familiar. But, yeah, you got a lot of people that are in cults that are swept up by the cults of personalities. And, a politician sometimes can get to that status. Somebody that everybody worships almost. He's an actor, a writer, director, known for Voyage of Gamelan. Never heard of that. Found on South Street, and then This Great Awakening. It's got 4 credits that are posted here. So, relatively unexperienced actor, it looks like, but I'm sure he's done stage production, because you can tell he did stage acting. But, I don't see any film credits. But he probably has an extensive stage credit. So, of course, we'd have to put Wicked as an advertisement. He also was a writer for this. And he directed a few films. So, anyways, I'll get more interested in him later on. So, go see A Great Awakening. And with that said, I'll let you go. Hour and a half I think is enough yapping for now. And I got Bible study tomorrow, Numbers chapter 14. And tomorrow night at the Bread of Life, I'll be speaking as well. And I hope if you're interested that you're in the local area, that you can come on out. Okay? And just enjoy some great quality, fun times in the Lord. There's a movement happening, and I see even the younger people, there's a hunger for the Word of God, for the presence of God, for all these different experiences that are spiritual, that many people that do not consider sometimes. I was praying with this lady on Sunday at the hospital that, God was prompting me to explain to her. So oftentimes we wait until physically we're down to the last part of our life where, we're praying for healing, but we neglect the internal side of us. And then that's also a part of us that has to be healed. The body, the mind, the soul, the spirit, just thinking about God's way of healing holistically, not just physically. Looks like we're going to be hosting the Bruins, by the way, next week, round 1. Sidetracked for a second. Squirrel. All right, so the Boston Bruins are coming to Buffalo. All right, so there it is. We got to heal on the inside. That's the bottom line. Okay? We got to get healed. We have to consider the body, mind, soul, and spirit to be functioning properly, so that, as I was saying earlier, pour out to other people. You have to be a blessing to other people. You can't be a cesspool. You can't be stale. You can't just think about yourself for your whole life and never consider other people. So, with that said, I'm done. I've had a lot of interesting podcasts I've been watching. Tucker Carlson's always got some interesting questions. Alex Jones has a lot of insight, a lot of different guests. Bongino is back at it, his podcast. And it was easy to be critical of him of stepping away, but he probably just can't handle the mess. As much as he wants to help fix things, his hands were tied. You have people that are controlling. They're manipulating the whole government, the world system, and some people don't know how to fight against it. Trump, if anything, is an anti-world agenda. He's got his own agenda, but he definitely is anti-everybody else's agenda. And I think that's what the appeal was for somebody like him to be president, is those people that they want to, they want to pave their own way in life. They don't want others to dictate everything to them. So, anyways, I'm done. Hopefully you guys were entertained by this. And feel free to ask questions, make comments. YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, all that stuff. ShawnPGreene.com. Get all the details, all the stuff. Donate. Like I said, hook a brother up. Go to my page, ShawnPGreene.com. And help me out, man. Help me help others. I like to give. And I give to people who I believe are strong in the giftings that they're gifted in, and they have a proven track record. So I got tons of other requests too. Oh, here's I'll make a last post here. Here's Mario Murillo. He's another minister I just follow. I didn't always agree with him either back in the day when he was boasting Trump. But here's another meme alteration that Trump is on the sideline here looking up to Jesus. To me, that's more appropriate. And then everybody else around them, So, okay, there we go. How much more controversial can we get, than to use an image of Christ and to mess with it somehow? Of course, remember, this guy, this is not Jesus of Nazareth. We don't know exactly what he looked like. And more than likely, he had either darker skin or darker hair or, no, I don't believe he had any blue eyes or none of that stuff. So there's what his image was on earth is not known, because anybody that had an eyewitness, they would have had to have painted it or something without, photography. And some people say that the Shroud of Turin was from his grave, but we don't know. You know what I mean? We have speculations. More importantly is that Christ is within us now. And now we are the image and likeness of our Father in heaven, and we're supposed to reflect that, regardless of what kind of skin we're in. Black, white, brown, if you're Hispanic or Asian or European or African. It doesn't matter. Samoan, Aboriginal. Doesn't matter. That's not the important part. Our external part is just how do we navigate until we're taken up, until we pass on. How do we navigate through this world? How do we live? What are we spending our energy on? What are we actually doing? What are we doing? I like that John Christ special years ago. It was comedy. He's got his hands up like this. What are we doing? What are we doing? I like that, because that's what we should be asking ourselves. What are we doing here? What is your purpose? What is your plan? But more importantly, what's God's plan for me? That's what we should be focused on. We can't be self-centered. We're here to serve each other, serve our fellow man. And that's it. That's my conclusion. I got nothing else to say, and if I do, I'll save it for next week. Once again, Shawn P Greene. ShawnPGreene.com on the Shawn P Greene Show. Trump, Jesus, memes, tax deadline, a great awakening, Sun Dulos, Sabres, more to 11. All right, man. Women, child, all of yous. I love you. And if you are local in Buffalo, come Wednesday night to the Bread of Life Church in South Buffalo, 6:30. I'll be preaching and go from there. Of course, every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. at the Bread of Life, we have open Bible study. And we're going chronologically through the book, and we're in Numbers 14 tomorrow. So join us. Peace. Love y'all.
You're listening to the Shawn P Greene Show.